So let's talk a little politics here.
Okay.
Who you got running the campaign?
Well, right now, it's a name you know well, the Axiom Strategies folks and Jeff Rowe, who Sam was their first federal candidate, and I think it's fitting that I stay with that horse.
And so those of you who say, I can't believe he'd attack Kayleigh McEnany, I say, yeah, I don't know what, that she didn't deserve that. She's a nice lady. There's no reason for him to take a cheap shot at her. Okay. And then I say to you, do you not remember 2015? Is this your first go with Donald Trump? Are you not aware of how this works? Do you forget? I don't. I say again, the man accused Ted Cruz's father of assassinating JFK. The man called Ted Cruz's wife ugly. I don't know what you want from me. How many times, how many ways do I have to say this to you? I don't like that either. I've had people who voted for Trump, tired of Trump, want to move on from Trump, say to me, Chris, they will say to me, Chris, I have trouble with his character. I just can't get past it. I'm sorry, I don't share your point of view. And I keep saying, I don't know where you hear me saying that I think Trump has an unimpeachable character and I think he's a swell guy and never did anything wrong. I've never held that position. Mark Weaver, I'm not asking you to endorse any candidate here, Trump or otherwise. I'm just simply asking from the point of view of what I know are probably many in this audience who say Trump's been, he's got 91 counts. There's a lot of people that believe that some judge's going to try to put him in jail. We just don't need this as a country, as a party. Let's go with a proven leader who's not being threatened with jail. And let's go with DeSantis or let's go with Haley. I know there's a healthy number of people in the Republican ranks who feel that way, and I respect it. But I wonder if you think from a legal perspective, is that your attitude? Well, Trump's probably cooked, so it would be best for Republicans to look elsewhere. I'm saying legally. I'm not asking you to personally tell me how you feel about any of these candidates on the Republican side. So last night, as I saw these people going, oh, God, he did so great. He kicked Newsom's butt. I was like, of course he did. Of course he did. Why are you talking about him like a kid who just hit a T-ball? Of course he did. He has the record. He can prosecute professionally. Why was there any doubt he'd knock it out of the park? And I got to say that is, it's just an odd reaction is all. I don't think Ron DeSantis is done for 2028. I don't agree with Aaron DeCourt at the Federalist about that. I don't believe that's true. I do think there's some merit to had he just hung on for a minute and let Trump fizzle out naturally. He wouldn't have taken the shrapnel. And he could have stepped in after Trump naturally fizzled out and come in and said, okay, are you guys done screwing around with him? Are you done losing with him? All right, now let's go in a new direction, and he's out of the way. Finally, once and for all. And DeSantis has 2 terms as Florida governor to ride off into the sunset on and run for president. I think he still can. I hope that he still does. I'm just a DeSantis hater. I'm not. No, I'm not. Very proud of his record. Very proud of his delivery last night. Very proud of the way he articulated conservatism. And if he can connect with the citizens of Iowa in the caucus in January and convince them that he should win, good for him. I cheer him on.
But isn't that interesting? I mean, that's what I think. We should respect the president. Yeah, but
I think that's what's so interesting about Trump. Look, I'm a conservative, and I don't actually think Trump's very conservative at all. I mean, I'm not. I'd be the last guy to sit here and tell you I'm shaking my pom-poms for the guy. I intend to vote for him, but I don't think he's a conservative by any stretch.
But it's a weird spot because we cannot abide this treatment of Donald Trump, but at the same time, you are concerned that this galvanizes support behind him as a candidate that can't win in the general.
Absolutely, and the Democrats tipped their hand when they said Trump will now be able to go into court and prove his innocence.
Right.
That is not what the court system's for, but that's what the liberals are saying it's all about. Can you imagine us being in that place and it being okay?
Nancy Pelosi, of all people, the former Speaker of the House, tweeted that yesterday. Yeah, so Trump has the chance to go to court and, quote, prove his innocence. Bill, thank you. So Bill has articulated exactly what I was saying a little while ago about a swath. How big? I can't measure it. I don't know. But I know there are a lot of you in the audience that feel the same way Bill does. Damn it, I don't want Trump to be the nominee. But you also kind of feel like this is going to make Trump the nominee. I get it. I get it. And I'm not weighing in on whether I believe that's true or false. I can't say. I don't know. I believe. I'm not really obsessed about the primary. I'm sorry to say. It's not. The primary doesn't move me. What concerns me is November 2024. You see, they thought, and they've always thought, that they could drive a wedge between Trump and his base. They thought, and look, there are a lot of you who are just tired of it. I get it. A lot of you are over it. You're tired of the investigations. You're tired of the January 6th stuff. You're tired of defending him. You want something new. You want to move on. You know he's hated. You don't want to defend him. You don't think he can win. I get all that stipulated. I understand your feelings. But you cannot take from him the bond he's built with the working class of this country that see him and only him as one of them. And no one could achieve what he achieved yesterday. None. Nobody. And it's because of that that you should never count him out and never assume it's time to move on. There's a huge swath of Republican voters that don't want to move on, and they don't tend to move on because they believe he is the only one who genuinely knows and understands them. Now that, you may not like that, but there is no denying that's true. Would they flock to him asking for autographs, shouting, "We love you, you're the real president, thank you, thank you, thank you"?
No.
Can Ron DeSantis does he even have the, and this is not, I'm not, folks, I'm not, don't, this is going to make you mad because I know a lot of you who want to move on from Trump and you think DeSantis is the way. You think I'm saying Trump's the way and DeSantis isn't. That's not what I'm saying. Don't confuse me here. I'm saying you just saw the best of Trump yesterday. And when Trump does his best, ain't nobody can touch him. It's just a fact. I struggle with how to talk about this without ticking off you DeSantis people. I'm not really making an editorial comment. I'm telling you what I believe to be true. And I think what this was the official renomination of Donald Trump yesterday. I just do. Now, I could hold out the possibility I'm wrong. I know a lot of people think ultimately this is not great news for Trump. Now this definitely means Trump can't win an election. And I also understand that. I hear you, and I understand that there are a lot of you that say, if this guy becomes our nominee, we're going to have an indicted nominee running against Joe Biden. And all I can say is, well, then we stack alleged criminal activity against alleged criminal activity and see where the chips fall with the American people, I guess. And I didn't take the shot. I was never pro-shot. I was never pro-shot mandate. Trump was never pro-mandate either, by the way. But nevertheless, you will, if you remember the 2020 campaign, if you remember my conversations with Trump officials who came on this show, how many times and how many ways did I beg Trump's campaign, and even Trump himself, if memory serves, I'd have to go back and listen to my interviews with Trump. How many times did I say, are you going to speak out forcefully on these lockdowns? Are you going to speak out forcefully and run against this issue of masking and lockdowns and closed schools? Mr. President, are you going to speak out on this stuff? Do you remember how frustrated I was that the Trump campaign didn't do enough to speak out aggressively enough back then on this? And they kind of did toward the end, but it was too late for my satisfaction. They didn't really make it central. And they were in this weird spot because, in my opinion, I give them a little grace in that, look, when you're president of the United States and you're told by the public health sector, we got this thing killing old people on a cruise ship and it's spreading like wildfire, we'd better act. I think it's a little revisionist history to act like everybody didn't panic a little bit. Everybody was a little confused. I also think it's revisionist history to act like Trump was the lockdown guy. I don't think he was, but I think Trump was caught in this weird place where he wasn't entirely sure. Now you say, well, Chris, he's elected president. He's the leader. It's his job. True, stipulated. Look, so my point is, if you're mad at Trump over COVID, fair. If you're mad at Trump because he was too deferential to Fauci, totally fair. If you're mad at Trump over the shot, okay, fair. Not entirely sure. That makes sense to me, but okay. Trump still feels pretty proud of Operation Warp Speed. He feels that he moved heaven and earth and cut corners and red tape so he could get a medicine to market that he was told would help combat a virus that was killing people. I can't fault him for that. But, okay, I did fault him and the campaign for not aggressively speaking out on lockdowns and masking and school closures. I did. I faulted him for that. He lost to Joe Biden. We were told Joe Biden won because he was going to better handle COVID. Joe Biden, in fact, I was told repeatedly one of the big reasons Biden became president of the United States was not fraudulent elections, but it was because he was the adult in the room and he was going to get a handle on COVID. Well, he didn't. Things got worse under Joe Biden. COVID deaths increased. I have every reason to believe, unfortunately, that Ronna McDaniel is probably going to become the next RNC chair. They're having their votes today to replace her. Yesterday, Ronna launches a broadside with a brand new video featuring, look out, Ron DeSantis endorsing her. Now, this makes it interesting because Donald Trump, as you know, is out there whipping votes for Ronna. Trump wants more Ronna McDaniel. So Harmeet launches a video yesterday with Ron DeSantis and Tucker Carlson. Also, I want to revisit, and I don't mean to bore you. I know that sometimes this gets boring. I'm not doing it to be boring. I'm doing it because I think it's important. The assumption that Donald Trump is going away to prison and that it's a lock, and maybe you've already kind of assumed that in your own head. Maybe you've heard people say that. Maybe you're thinking that. Time to move on from Trump because he's definitely going to jail. Well, Mark and I kind of parse that a little bit. There's some analysis from Jonathan Turley that I think is really smart about why, as a Democrat, he says, don't be so sure about that. So I want to unpack that a little bit. I kept hearing people say this could be a real boost to DeSantis. There seems to be a hopefulness that this will be the moment that everybody saw DeSantis really fight, really take on a Democrat head-to-head, and this will convince people that DeSantis now can really do this. You know, and then it turned into a Trump won't debate DeSantis. At least Newsom will debate DeSantis. For folks who are pro-DeSantis, and I'm not anti-DeSantis, as much as I know it frustrates you when I say it, because I know Trump voters and Trump backers on social media in particular are vicious and ugly and nasty, and I've told you how distasteful I think it is. Attacking Ron DeSantis is disgusting. It's unnecessary. I don't support it. I won't do it. I've never engaged in it. I don't think Ron DeSantis's rise or fall in this primary has anything to do with Donald Trump voters being hypnotized by a cult leader who won't warm to DeSantis, or they've been told not to like DeSantis. Look, and again, I say take it from a guy who back in 2016 literally spent days behind the microphone telling you were a stone-cold moron if you didn't support Ted Cruz. Because I did. I said that repeatedly for those of you that are longtime listeners. Support Ted Cruz or else. Donald Trump's not a conservative. I will not support Donald Trump. He's hijacking the Republican Party. Horrible mistake. Don't do it. Ted Cruz is a real conservative. What happened? The Republican base back then, before anybody knew anything about what Donald Trump would do as president, said, Stigall, you're wrong. We don't agree with you. We don't, Lion Ted, all those nicknames, whatever. They didn't trust Ted. They didn't think Ted connected. They didn't like Ted. How many times I was told, Chris, I don't know what it is, but Ted Cruz just seems a little too rehearsed. Ted Cruz seems a little too slick. Ted Cruz seems to be a little too much of a know-it-all. He's too much of a pencil neck geek. He's too much of a Poindexter. Yeah, he's conservative, and that's all great, but he's just too, If I heard it once, I heard it 1,000 times about Ted Cruz up against Donald Trump. And folks, DeSantis enthusiasts, I hate to break this to you. Ron DeSantis is suffering the exact same fate Ted Cruz did right now. Fine men for whom I would be enthusiastic to vote. It's a personality thing.